Okay folks, welcome to the video reassembling the Allcocks Duco. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to put back the bearings. We're going to pack the bearings with grease. We're going to make sure this slider area has oil on it. Generally speaking, with fishing reels, sliding parts are oiled, generally speaking, and the cog parts are greased, and you don't need to overdo it either, which is part of the deal. So okay, just a word about the bearing washers. These are mild steel bearing washers, and the bearing runs on these. I'll quickly show you the bearing. The bearing looks like this. These are ball bearings in a brass race. The steel ball bearings wear a groove. You can see the groove there. So if you turn it around, the other surface is still flat. Essentially, we're going to put the flat surface against the bearing, which to some extent allows us to renovate the bearing of the reel a little bit without having to get a new one. And then we're going to put grease on here. Okay, so that's the first stage. And remember, with the grease, it doesn't need to be excessive, it just needs to be enough. So that's the next stage, where you can see the grease is on there. So the other bearing washer is going to be put with the flatter surface forwards onto the bearing. That's the surface which has not been worn. So that's one thing. Now I'm going to put a little bit of real oil onto the sliding surface. And that's pen reel oil. Now it's important when you do this, don't use car grease because it doesn't have enough oil packing. Grease is actually made of soap and oil, and it tends to not have enough oil in the grease. Let's just put it that way. There you go, that's running nice and smoothly now if you look at that. So what we've got to do next is, there's a fibre washer and two lock nuts which you've got to be locked together here. Now you're supposed to have a special tool with these, but I'll let you into a secret. You can actually, if you get the right shape, you can use a plumber's pipe wrench to tighten it up. I'm not going to tighten this up very tight, and the reason I'm not going to do that is because this reel is too worn to really be used as a fishing reel. It's more of a piece that you would use to show people, essentially, a collector's piece essentially. So there you see, that is now on. That's like a little, I think it's a fibre washer that goes on there. Came off in the dismantling video if you remember. Okay, so next I'm going to put lock nuts onto it. You can jam a screwdriver against the inner one, and then you can use a plumber's pipe wrench to get the other one on, tighten it up if you really need to do that. Because the special tools for Allcocks Duco, I kind of doubt you'd be able to find them these days, unless you had a very, very old fishing shop which just happened to go out of business for some reason. Now then, this wants to be tight so that you've got about 1/2 mil of play, otherwise the reel doesn't turn properly. Okay, so if you jam a screwdriver onto the inner one and then tighten the other one up with either a pipe wrench or another screwdriver, it gets it tight enough for the reel to work properly. And you should have about 1 millimeter's play there so that it moves adequately. Okay, so the next thing I do is we've got a cog system here. So cog systems need grease, so we're going to put some grease on the cog system. Right, so that's greased, and this is the main winding cog just here. Okay, so this particular part should just drop in there now. It's important to get it the right way up, of course. And you can see the drum now turning. Now if you remember on disassembly, we had the cam assembly, and the cam assembly goes over the cam there. This is the cam just here. And then the screw just tightens it down. Okay, so I have put a small amount of grease on the cam itself, and I'm going to put a little bit more in. And notice that I've avoided using the word pack. And the reason I've avoided using the word pack is that this is not a steam locomotive. The amount of grease you need on a fishing reel is way, way smaller than anything like that. It's a much more genteel application. So you don't pack grease into fishing reels, you really don't. So the next thing that goes in is the pin, and that actually does just go in. You insert the slider, you can see the slider coming through there, you can see just there, look, and then you insert the pin. And then when you turn this, you should see the spooler coming up and down. I'll get it in focus. There you go, and that's your reel actually working in front of you. How about that? So any other of the sliding parts now need to be oiled. So the oil has been placed onto this big slider, onto the pin, and onto the slider at the front there, which makes the drum go up and down. And there'll be some on the spindle for the winder too in a second. So you now put that back, and there are 2 screws that secure that. And one just here. Okay, so now that's on. What we're going to do next is going to oil this joint here with pen reel oil, and I'm going to take that off and oil that. Okay, so you can reinstall the handle on either side, and it kind of depends on whether you want a right-handed or a left-handed reel. So we'll put this one back this way around, and there's a little tube and a screw, which I kind of think we showed you when we dismantled the reel. So what I'm going to do next is, so here we have the handle. There's a pack washer here, and that's been on there I think because there's been a lot of wear on this reel. It is quite an old reel now, and it's just about still usable, but I think it's more of a collector's piece now than it would have been years ago, because it's got a nice brass finish on the side and that. Make sure that turns and swivels, and then put a bit of oil on that. And then here we've got a pack washer and a screw, and then we go to here. You can see there's some flats on the side of the handle mount. That goes onto the flats essentially. And then you've got your pack washer and your screw that go on into there. And it is a right hand thread, so don't worry about that. So when you turn the bearing washers around and you pack it with the proper kind of grease, and you put pack washers into the loose bits, these reels can be very much usable again. I mean, that's very, very workable, and it feels very good. Okay, so if you remember, on the disassembly we have the counterweight and counterweight screw, the bail arm, which is brass, it's been repaired, it's got a steel half arm top, and there's a captured pen screw and a slotted pin. Slotted pin won't go in until it's actually on the drum, so you have to put that in, the pen in first. And there's also a packing washer there because there's a lot of play in this part. It is an old reel, so you're going to expect that. So that's the piece that would go on next. I'll just roughly show you how that goes on. So you put that on there. Well, basically you need to put the screw in there, and then put the pin screw in. Okay, so you're just about to see this. That needs to be tightened up, and then there's a pin screw there which is also tightened up. And the spring is currently loose because we've still got to put the counterweight. Okay, that's all nicely inserted, including the washer. And you notice there's no spring on it. So if we put the counterweight back, counterweight has a dual purpose in that it also retains the spring. We'll line up the hole, and then we'll put the screw in the hole. So if you click the bail arm back, it should just snap nicely. So the next thing to do is to put the drum and the drag back. You can probably pull the bail arm back actually. That's the drum, and then this piece here, this is the drag, which is quite difficult to take off on the Duco. It's easy to put on, it's really difficult to take off. And you can feel the drag click on it. I think this is a patented system. It's not as good as Mitchell, which is probably why Mitchell succeed. Okay, so that's it reassembled. If you click the bail arm out, it should snap back. That's hit my hand a little bit, but when it's on the rod, it will be mounted properly. And that turned really beautifully now, and that is really, really nice. It's a nice old antique fishing reel, and a great example for collectors to have. Probably a bit old to use now, but there you go. That is the Allcocks Duco. That completes the task of reassembling and greasing and oiling the Allcocks Duco. Thanks very much for watching. This is Avian Fish TV signing off now. Look out for some more videos.